Welcome to another episode of English Grammar Class. This is Rajesh. In today's class, we are going to discuss about relative pronouns. A relative pronoun is a word such as who, that, or which that is used to introduce a relative clause. The relative pronouns include who, whom, whose, which, and that. The relative pronoun we use depends on what we are referring to and the type of relative clause. Who refers to a person, the noun, pronoun, subject which does the action. Whom refers to the object, the noun or pronoun that receives the action. Whose used to show possession of something or someone. That used in a defining clause that refers to a person, animal, or thing. Which used in a non defining clause that refers to a person, animal, or thing. Relative pronoun who. We use who in relative clauses to refer to people and sometimes to pet animals. We use it to introduce defining and non defining relative clauses. So, let's look at some examples. This is my brother who moved to Australia last year. This is a defining relative clause, and here who refers to my brother. Next example. That is a dog who doesn't like me. This is a defining relative clause. Here the relative pronoun who referred to a pet animal dog. Next example. There is this man at work who is one of my friends. Well, he is never been on a train. This is a non-defining relative clause and the who refers to this man at work. Next we can look at who can act as the subject or the object of a relative clause. Look at the example here. She is going out with a bloke who is in the army. Here, who refers to a bloke and is the subject of is in the relative clause. Bloke is an informal word for a man. Next example, the woman who I saw yesterday was Sheila. Here, who refers to the woman and is the object of saw in the relative clause. Relative pronoun whom. We use whom in formal styles or in writing to refer to people when the person is the object of the verb. It is much common in writing than in speaking. Look at the example here. The response of those managers whom I have consulted has been very positive and we are looking forward to meeting together. Here, whom refers to those managers and is the object of consulted in the relative clause. The most common use of whom is with a preposition. We can use whom as the complement of a preposition. Look at the example here. The first book was a terrible historical novel for children which was turned down by every publisher to whom it was sent. Whom refers to every publisher and is the complement of the preposition to. Relative pronoun whose. We use whose as a relative pronoun to indicate possession by people and animals. In more formal styles, we can also use it for things. We use whose before nouns instead of a possessive expression in defining and non-defining clauses. Look at the example here. He is marrying a girl whose family don't seem to like him. There was me and there was Kate, whose party it was. And then there were two other people. Actually, it was Kate's party. Relative pronoun which. We use which in relative clauses to refer to animals and to things. We use it to introduce defining and non-defining relative clauses. We always use which to introduce relative clauses when they refers to a whole sentence or clause. Look at the example here. You need to tick the box which says yes. It is a defining relative clause. Here the relative pronoun which refers to the box. Look at the next example. He won't have much time to prepare for the meeting, which is this afternoon. Actually, this is a non-defining relative clause. Here the relative pronoun which refers to the meeting, which can act as the subject or the object of the relative clause. Look at the example here. The new sports complex which will be built on the site of the old power station will provide facilities for cricket, soccer, bowls and badminton. Here the relative pronoun which refers to the new sports complex and is the subject of will be built in the relative clause. Next example. It was the same picture which I saw at the National Gallery. Here the relative pronoun which refers to the same picture and is the object of saw in the relative clause. Relative pronoun that we use that instead of who, whom or which in relative clauses to refer to people, animals and things. We use it to introduce defining clauses only. That is more informal than who, whom or which. Look at the example here. We met somebody last night that did the speech therapy course 2 years after you. Here the relative pronoun that refers to a person, that is somebody. Look at the next example. The 8:30 is the train that you need to get. Here the relative pronoun that refers to a thing, that is train. That can act as the subject or the object of the relative clause. Look at the example here. He finally remembers one lesson that his mother had taught him early. Here the relative pronoun that refers to one lesson and is the subject of had thought in the relative clause. Look at the next example. Don't take the money that doesn't belong to you. Here the relative pronoun that refers to money and is the subject of belong in the relative clause. Look at the next example. It is the same cooker that my mother has. Here the relative pronoun that refers to the same cooker and is the object of has in the relative clause. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back with a new lesson. Keep watching, liking, sharing and supporting.